The old intro video for the new show. Figured we'd tidy things up, make a cool new little intro video for you guys. You might have seen it. We brought James Lynch aboard this past week, and he used it for the intro for his interview, which was a pretty fun one and interesting. Did you end up watching the interview, Dan?
I have not.
Okay, well, Grant Dawson, pretty interesting, spoke about sort of the UFC telling him like he wasn't supposed to be inactive, he wasn't injured or anything like that, but the UFC told him that he's a bit of a puzzle piece that is tough to fit into the mix, which is interesting because he's a guy who's riding a 7-fight winning streak. He's got one blemish on his record, and he's sitting outside of that top 15. But because he's not a name's name, he holds no notable wins against ranked opponents. They just don't know what to do with him.
That's a tough situation to be in.
Right? And I mean, he is fighting coming up against Leonardo Santos. Could be a very fun fight. And I think that if he gets a victory in this one, arguably should be fighting a ranked opponent with an 8-fight winning streak and like 5 or 6 in a row inside the octagon. Like, it's unheard of that a guy goes that many wins and doesn't get a ranked opponent in the UFC.
Yeah, that's hard to believe, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he was found on the Contender Series, I think the first season of the Contender Series. A long time ago, man.
At this point, I think you can safely say there are way too many fighters on the UFC's roster.
Well, they did just cut a couple. I mean, we might as well kick things off with news since we're sort of going in that avenue. I mean, just yesterday, today is Thursday, so Wednesday, we learned that Junior Dos Santos, former UFC heavyweight champion, as well as Alistair Overeem, contender for the title he's rising heavyweight contender for numerous years, has fought hundreds of fights, which included K1 kickboxing and whatnot. Both these guys cut from the organization. Without saying that it should have happened, what were your thoughts on the fact that it did happen? Sort of, I guess it's bringing the rise of a new generation through the UFC heavyweight division.
To be completely honest with you, it surprises me that happened. Because although there are a lot of young, talented heavyweights, relatively it's still a thin division. And Alistair Overeem is very much a known quantity and a named fighter. Junior Dos Santos is a former champion, like you said. I've read, I don't know, that Junior Dos Santos is just a month removed from getting knocked out. And they offered him a fight with Tybura on next month's card. And he said no because he hasn't been able to train since he's been knocked out and he wouldn't have a proper training camp. So as an alternative to that, they fired him.
Yeah, very interesting. As I said in the tweets, fellas, if you guys or ladies, if you're listening, we're running a little contest. So if you're listening to this, get a comment in, get a question in. If we choose to throw it up on the screen, then we'll get it. Just wondering maybe if you have any perspective on Junior Dos Santos or Alistair Overeem being cut from the UFC roster, throw it in there. Maybe we'll throw it up on the screen. You could win yourself some MMASucka swag. If not, feel free not to. I mean, it's completely up to you what you do with your fingers or your keyboard. But we're here yapping and yapping along the way. But I was surprised with the cut myself. I mean, it's not too often you hear about former heavyweight champions or former champions in general being released from the roster, especially at that point in their career. Like Junior Dos Santos is on the downward slope of his career. He's not going to be fighting for a title any longer, but he could be a guy that brings some of these younger fighters up and fights against them.
The problem I see with that and the reasoning behind why the UFC would want to make this move is you can have it's diminishing returns on your investment. Because they've been with the organization for so long, because he is a former champion, he commands a high salary. And at what point are you getting, the money back on that investment? You can have
and at the same
fight.
time, and at the same time, arguably, you don't want these young up and comers potentially losing to Junior Dos Santos.
or each other. That's the other side of it. Is
Yeah,
you do need somebody at that level who is not quite what they were, but still a name value to help build some of these younger guys. So it's a difficult situation for the UFC to be in.
for sure is.
But
And the thing is these two are going to bolster someone's heavyweight roster. It could be Bellator, it could be PFL, it could be one championship because they're looking to round out their heavyweight division for sure. The question comes into play, could it be one organization that picks up both these guys, or are they too much in terms of their dollar value for one organization to be able to handle that?
I don't know. To be honest with you, you look at the past relationship that Alistair Overeem has with Scott Coker, and Bellator seems like a natural fit. But it's a hefty price tag, and you just have to wonder what you're getting for that money.
Exactly. Exactly. And do either one of them contend for a title in another organization?
Well, I mean, depending on where they go, sure. I think that Alistair Overeem could step into Bellator today and be a top ranked, top 5 ranked heavyweight. I don't know how I would pick him versus Ryan Bader, but I mean, Overeem certainly has a chance in that fight, as does Junior Dos Santos, in my opinion, in that fight. I
And I
think
mean,
what,
we see Brandon Vera, the one championship heavyweight champion. So
yeah,
you never know.
it's tough to say where they're going to end up and whether or not they both end up in the same place.
Do you think we see it happen sooner rather than later?
I think so. I think that with names, just because of the name value, I don't think people are going to want to sit on their hands for too long. I think that when someone like Alistair Overeem hits the open market, you have to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah,
And I think that if I owned a promotion, he would certainly be the one out of the two that I would want first.
100%. I completely agree. Now, moving away from the news, UFC 259, we got a little tiny card on our hands this weekend.
We do.
Three three title fights. Easily, it could. I mean, we're in March, and this could easily be the card of the year already with the fact that we've got the three title fights. I can't believe they made this card and were able to hold on to it.
Well, knock on wood.
Knocking on wood that it's gonna hold together, but all the way from the top down to the bottom. I know you said some of these preliminary guys aren't necessarily names, but I mean, we've got a killer preliminary card that's going to be televised. The UFC Fight Pass card is could arguably be good as well, but from the top to the bottom, we've got a stacked fight card. Let's talk the main card first before we get into the prelims. But kicking off the main card, we got Tiago Santos against Alexander Rakitch. This fight, light heavyweights, man. I mean, so you think someone's going to sleep in this one or what?
I do. I think someone goes to sleep here. I think that it's going to be a good fight. I think that it's a good fight to kick off the televised the pay per view portion of the card. I don't think you're going to need the judges for these two guys.
No, not at all. I mean, we know they both throw leather. We know that they they don't like to be in the cage all too long. So,
Yeah.
who are you picking?
Eh, this is a tough one for me. It's kind of one of those things where my head tells me to take Alexander Ratchik, but my heart says go with Diego Santos. He's 2 fights removed from that fight with John Jones, of course, where he wrecked his knees beyond all considerable use. And then in his return fight, he fought someone who's super tough and durable, and you know, it's I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and say Santos, but neither outcome would shock me.
I'm gonna go with Rakitch. I think that he takes this one. I think someone goes to sleep, like we were saying, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens early. We're both opposite on this one, and I usually love it when it happens that way. So it's nice to be on opposite ends of the spectrum for this one. The next fight, 155 pounds, lightweight matchup between Islam Makachev and Drew Dober. Now, if you're going by the odds makers, you're gonna pick Makachev, but Drew Dober surprises people when he steps inside the cage because he's so durable. He can take punches, he can land punches, and he's unorthodox as well. This is a fun fight, not necessarily on paper, but it's a fun fight when you look at the names that are inside the octagon. What are your thoughts on this one, Dan?
I like Drew Dober to win this fight. I know he's the odds-on underdog to win the fight. I should have said not the odds-on underdog. He's the underdog to. I did the breakdown on this fight for the website, and I like Drew Dober an awful lot, man. I think that he is continuously improving every time he gets into the octagon now, and I see him as a potential future candidate for a championship fight at 155. And
Really?
I think Drew Dober is on the come up. And in order for that to happen, he has to win this fight, obviously, and I think he does.
Wow, those are that's a strong statement. I'm going to take Makachev in this one, just because I can. I mean, as I said, Drew Dober is unorthodox. He can pick up the victory anywhere. He can get the submission. He can get the knockout. He can push the pace and get the decision. These two guys are so closely ranked in the lightweight as worldwide on Tapology as well, 12 and 13 worldwide. So well matched, but I just think that the Russian's going to have a little more for Drew Dober than he has for him. So I'm going to take the Russian. Look at that. Again, opposite ends of the spectrum for this one.
I'm going to go as far as to say this will be fight of the night, too.
There you go. You have it here. $50K for Drew Dober and Islam Makachev. All right. First title fight on our hands. 135-pound Bantamweight championship. Champion Peter Yan takes on Algermaine Sterling. I'll kick things off with this one. I think Sterling has looked the best he has over the course of the last few fights. He's the number one contender. And you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I think we are going to hear and new from Mr. Buffer.
We are once again on opposite sides of the fence. If I'm going to be honest, I think there's only one fight on the main card that we're going to agree on. And it's not this one. I think Peter Yan is just a machine. He's just an animal. And as much as I would like for Aljo to win, I don't think he does. I think he's going to get ground up. His legs are going to get chopped out, and Peter Yan wins the fight.
Early? You think he finishes him?
Nope. Well, he could finish him, but if he does, it'll be like in the fourth or fifth, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think Aljo's going to just grind it out. I think he's going to be able to keep him on his back. I don't know, man. I think he's looked so good.
He has.
And I just don't see. I mean, he's a guy who's needed a title shot. Maybe he could have gotten a title shot 2 fights ago. He was being overlooked in the division, but he's, knee bar against Cody Stamen, decision against Jimmy Rivera, decision against Pedro Munoz, rear naked choke against Corey Sandhagen. Like, the names that he's beaten are so amazing. I know Peter Yan is on a different level than those guys, but I just see Algermaine turning the table here from that last loss on his record and continuing the win streak. So we'll see how it goes. But again, opposite ends of the spectrum. I like it. I believe this next fight is the one that we're going to agree on. UFC Featherweight Championship. The women are in the cage. 145 pounds. Amanda Nunes puts the title on the line against Megan Anderson. Dan, who are you picking?
Unless the opponent is King Kong on cocaine, I'm going with Amanda Nunes. All the time. Every time for here on out.
Yeah? Every time, eh?
Regardless of who it is. There's nobody out there that beats her.
Interesting. Would you place money on Megan Anderson?
No.
No?
No. I think that she offers next to no challenge for Amanda Nunes. I understand that the concept that we haven't seen Amanda Nunes fight somebody that's 6 feet tall before, but I don't think that's going to be a factor. I think that Nunes is going to walk through her and take her out. I would not put $1 on, despite the odds.
Plus 750 as we speak, and I guarantee you those odds will go up.
It could be plus 7,500, and I'm not taking $1 out of my wallet.
On $1.
Nope.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, guess what? I'm picking Amanda Nunes as well, but I might throw a 20 on Megan Anderson just because.
You might, or you already have.
No, I haven't yet. I swear, I haven't yet, but I might. I mean, it's very slim pickings for her to like. She'd have to clip her from way back. I don't even know the reach advantage. Let's look at this. Like, do we even have it? 70. So she's got a 3-inch reach advantage, which isn't a lot because that's half an inch or an inch and a half on each arm.
Not
So
enough.
really, it's not enough to land from the outside. But her legs, you never know. You never know. So maybe I might throw something.
Who has she displayed the ability to knock out before with one shot?
Not very many people. She's shown her ground game, which is decent. She lost to Felicia Spencer. She lost to Holly Holm. Obviously, she won, in Invicta against, like, her wins do come by stoppage. I'll say that. But I don't think she gets the stoppage victory. I think that if it happens, it's going to be like a weird flash dropping, or she's able to throw up a wild submission from her back, which, again, slim pickings. Main event on our hands, Jan Blachowicz takes on middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, looking to become the 2-division champion. Interestingly enough, coming into this fight, Izzy is the minus 230 favorite against the champion Blachowicz, who's a plus 185 underdog. I'm thinking that if you're saying that we are on opposite ends of the spectrum with everything other than the Amanda Nunes fight, guessing you're picking Blachowicz in this one.
I am indeed. Knockout.
Explain yourself.
Too much power, too much reach, just too strong. It's a different animal. 205 is a different animal, and I don't think that Adesanya has the power necessarily to stop Jan. I think that Jan does have the power to stop him, and I think that he knocks him out. I think that he's just ridiculously strong and heavy-handed.
He is. We've seen him finish guys with like wilting power. It's crazy. Yeah. I'm gonna pick Izzy. I have picked against him in the past, and he's one of those guys, like that I always say, like Nate Diaz, another guy, for instance, who I've picked against in the past, and I'm always like, why the fuck do I pick against these guys? And I've picked against them, and I've picked against them, and I've picked against them, and they constantly surprise me. This time I'm going to turn around. I'm going to take Izzy. I think he's just going to pick him apart from the outside. I do think his face might end up the way it did after he fought. I'm mistaken. When he had the fight, every other fight he's had, he has come out unblemished, but he had a fight where he came out with scars and bruises and his face was battered. But I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. I think that he's going to get picked apart, but I think that his consistency, I think that his tenacity, I think that his reach, I think that he's going to just be able to get enough to get the job done. I think it will go to the judges.
We'll see what happens. I'm excited to see the fight, which is nice.
Yeah, it's about time, right?
Yeah, it's a crazy night of fights. Anytime you've got like Dominic Cruz and Joe Benavidez on the prelims, you're in for a special night. So
exactly. Let's talk about the prelims then. We can go all the way down to, I don't know how many are going to be on the UFC Fight Pass prelims, but
I think all but 2 or 3. I think.
Oh yeah. The one fight, there's a few fights on the prelims that I'm really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. Sean Brady is our MMASucka prospect of the month, number 1 for March, and Sean Brady is 13-0 in his professional career. Jake Matthews, we know what he's done. He was on Tough Nations from Australia. fantastic fighter. I think Sean Brady becomes 14-0 after this and is a serious threat in the welterweight division. This is a fun fight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that fight as well. I'm not as familiar with Sean Brady as you are.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The next fight that I'm looking forward to, last one standing. This is my pick.
Oh,
Could be
I
a
like it.
could be a tough one. Carlos Ulberg is my pick for last one standing. He's taking on Kennedy Neschuku. I don't know if I pronounced that properly at all, but this could be a tough one. I mean, I might get eliminated with this one because Ulberg is one of those guys that's in the octagon at 3-0. You do
Yeah,
not see that very often. You
no,
never see
absolutely not.
guys with that few fights, but he has impressed to say the least. Kennedy is 7-1 and feared inside the octagon as well. So I went out on a limb and I took this guy just because I feel like not many other people may take him. And I want to be sort of not in that big bunch if a big guy gets dropped off the radar. And we did have last week there was a temptation and the guy won the temptation. He had to take a minus or a plus 175 underdog with all of his picks if he had more than one pick, I believe. And if he took it and he won, then this week he could take anybody on the fight card off the roster for everybody else, but he was allowed to take them. So he took
Wow,
Amanda Nunes off the roster for everybody.
that makes sense.
So pretty cool temptation. Carlos Ulberg is the guy that I took. I was gonna take Sean Brady, but Jake Matthews could play a part in, blemishing that record. There's a few other guys on the card that I was interested in. I was contemplated taking an underdog. I believe Kyler Phillips and Yadong Song. Either one of those guys could win that fight. That's a very, very fun matchup as well.
Absolutely.
But talking, preliminary fights, Tim Elliott, way, way down on the prelims. This guy fought Demetrius Johnson and had probably the biggest banger of a fight against DJ inside the octagon, other than Ian McCall, which is hilarious because, like, two guys that weren't even huge names in the UFC gave DJ the toughest time. Ian McCall came in, obviously, he was huge name outside the octagon, and then this was the first time we saw the 125 pounders, but Uncle Creepy gave him creeps, and that fight could have gone either way. And Tim Elliott almost tapped him out on a few occasions just because he's so tricky. He's taking on Jordan Espinoza. This is a fantastic fight, and like you said, that main card fight could be fight of the night. This one could be fight of the night. Man, there are so many cards or so many fights on the prelims that could be fight of the night.
Yeah, this is a fun fight. I like Tim Elliott. I've always liked Tim Elliott. I like the way he fights. I like Jordan Espinoza. I think he's probably all around a better fighter. But this is going to be an absolute fun fight. I'm looking forward to it quite a bit.
Tim just doesn't care, man. He does
No,
whatever the hell he wants inside the octagon. You can't train for a guy like Tim Elliott.
no, he is a honey badger.
100%.
Does what he wants.
Willie Union throws in massive fight card. If you're still in here, buddy, what's the fight of the night for you? If you don't answer, I don't care, but let me know. Who's the fight of the night for you, too, Willie Union? You said Joseph Benavidez on the undercard. This one, oh man, I hate to say it, but I don't think he's picking up a victory in this fight unless he lands a flash knockout because Askar Askarov is on another level.
How dare you, sir?
You think Joe Bocop picks this one up?
Well, I'm not going to go that far. But just put some respect on his name, buddy.
He's got the best nicknames in the game. I mean, what can you call it? Like 25 different nicknames.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Joey B. I like him. Always have, always will.
Great dude.
This is
Loyal
a
to his
tough,
team as well.
yeah, so loyal. This is a tough fight for him, though. You're right.
It is.
But I'm not going to make a pick out of respect for him.
Fair enough. Okay, let's talk one other fight on the prelims then. It's the featured fight on the preliminary card. Again, another fight that could be fight of the night. Former bantamweight champ Dominic Cruz takes on Casey Kenny. This one could go either way. This one, man, I don't even want to pick someone in this fight because, like, I'm a huge Dominic Cruz fan. I feel like it could be a tough fight for him against Casey Kenny because he's another guy, much like Tim Elliott, who's very unpredictable in the cage. We know he has a great ground game. Dominic Cruz has relentless wrestling, comes in from different angles. It's going to be the pace of this fight is going to be fucking crazy.
I just don't know exactly what we're gonna get out of Dom Cruz. His injuries and how long it's been since he's been in the cage and everything else. I mean, it'll be almost a year since his last fight. And of course, he's lost a couple in a row now, going back to Cody Garbrandt. It's funny because if you look, his last fight was to Henry Cejudo. And then if you go to the fight before that, it was all the way back in December of 2016.
Yeah, but how many times did he fight in between there as well, right? Like once maybe.
0.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. So it's hard to know exactly what you're going to be getting in terms of Dominic Cruz. If you're getting the healthy, just ridiculously fast and the cardio machine that used to be Dom Cruz, I put him. I won't rule him out versus anybody. You know what I
No.
mean? But I just don't know which one we're going to get. Kenny is a very tough fighter. He hasn't been in there with anyone at the level of Dominic Cruz. So I just don't know exactly what to expect out of this. I hope that we see the best version of Dominic Cruz, and if we do, that'll be good enough for me. I'll be happy with that.
A win for Casey Kenny puts him in the rankings, which is nice
It
because
does.
he would deserve that. Fun fighter to watch. Again, Dominic Cruz, a guy who is very, very hard to pick against. He arguably some of the best footwork in the entire UFC.
For sure.
Comes in at weird angles. Had fantastic fights against TJ Dillashaw, fantastic fights against Cody Garbrandt. I mean, Garbrandt used basically Dominic Cruz style footwork against him. That was a thing of beauty. But Dominic Cruz is just Dominic Cruz. Like, if he is healthy and his knees are good, then this guy will come at you from every angle in the book.
Yeah, I'm just excited to see, and I just hope that it's a good version of Dominic Cruz.
For sure. So you picked your fight of the night. If you're looking at this card and you were to take a last one standing pick, who would it be?
Well, that's a good question. Well, if I could have anyone, I would take Amanda Nunes.
Yeah.
I think she's as sure a thing as there is in the sport. If I couldn't take her, if she was off the table to me, it's tough, man. I'm just going down the list. I'm looking. I don't see anyone that I'd feel super overwhelmingly safe with. I know
No.
who. I don't know who it would be. It would probably have to be for me, Peter Yan, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's such a tough one as well. I think, like, if I were to as I said, if I were to take anyone else, I was thinking going with an underdog, but again, that's tough because to take an underdog this year in last one standing, it's not any underdog. The guy has to be under a plus 150. So a plus 150 or higher.
Yeah,
So
I can tell
so
you who
it's
I
tough.
wouldn't take. I wouldn't take who you took.
No?
No.
He's a minus 230 favorite. So I liked that.
My problem with him is that he's only fought 3 times, and then he's been fighting more kickboxing than he has MMA.
Yes.
3 of his last 4 fights have been kickboxing. And the only fight we've ever seen him fight was on the Contender Series, where he stopped Bruno Oliveira. But Bruno Oliveira has now been stopped 2 or 3 times in a row too. So
True. The other
we don't.
guy obviously was Sean Brady, but as I said, Jake Matthews, I mean, we know he's durable and he could pick up a victory against
Yeah,
anybody, really.
that's a scary proposition there too.
So the other one was looking way down on the prelims then was Lavina Souza.
I could see that pick being
As
smart.
an underdog, it gets me an extra pick if she wins. She's the ranked fighter. She's a plus 172 dog.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a tough card, man.
It is.
They really put together a good even undercard.
That they did. All right, let's go over some of the stuff at MMASucka.com. I'll share the screen. We'll go over it. We've got UFC previews for every fight on the UFC 259 main card. The pre-fight
I think
press
we're still
conference.
waiting on one.
Okay, the pre-fight press conference went down today. Unfortunately, I was at work. I didn't get to see any of that stuff. We've got a cool article about Pedro Munoz praising the calf kicks after his UFC victory over Jimmy Rivera. Those were notably the thing that changed the table and changed the course of the fight for Pedro Munoz. PFL stating that they will be held in a state-of-the-art bubble in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Pretty cool that they've got their own little bubble there. So much like the UFC, they'll have a little state-of-the-art bubble, but there's training camp within that bubble. So cool on the PFL or for doing that. So we'll see how that
Yeah, that'll
works
be
out.
interesting.
Yeah. All the lead cards or main events were announced for one on TNT. Interesting to see how that'll work out. Obviously, us Canadians will likely still get to watch the card on YouTube or Bleacher Report Live because we do not get TNT up here in Canada. So I'm not sure how that's going to work.
We'll have results from that event this morning.
Yes, we will. And so a few other cool things on the card. As I said, the Grant Dawson interview. We've got my buddy Jason Weiner, who's the co-founder of Nutrabolics. He's got a book out called Let's Go. You can check that out. Anything else you want to chat about, Dan?
No, we've got event coverage all weekend. There's a bare knuckle event tomorrow night in Thailand that I'm debating doing results for.
Bare knuckles always, I'll text you during a bare knuckle event and you'll be like, you know better than that. So I know how much you love bare knuckle.
It's my happy place.
Better than the UFC sometimes, but
better than the UFC all the time.
Maybe not this weekend. We'll see.
That could be. This weekend they got a good one.
Guess what? No MMASucka swag won, folks. No one churned in an awesome question. So next week, join us here on MMASucka Live. We'll put it out to you guys in the days leading up to the show. And we will try to give out some MMASucka swag. If you haven't seen it, I will pull up the store once again for your viewing pleasure. We've got everything, as we've said, from phone cases to T-shirts to coffee mugs to everything else.
Jeremy's
stickers,
fanny
packs, women's tights, stickers, different style stuff, masks for you people that have to wear masks, which is every single person in the entire world.
Wear your mask.
Check out teespring.com/stores/MMASucka or check us out next week to win some swag. That does it for this week of MMASucka Live. I'm Jeremy Brand. You can check me out on Twitter at JeremyBrand604, on Instagram at Jeremy_604. Dan Rose everywhere at Dan Rose MMA. Make sure you check out MMASucka.com, as well as MMASucka on Twitter at MMASucka or Instagram at MMA_Sucka. We've got cool stuff over there these days. And make sure you click the like, subscribe, all that other stuff on YouTube. We'll have goodies from James Lynch over there as well. That does it for this week. Make sure you enjoy UFC 259.